Have you ever just sat quietly, maybe in the stillness of early morning or right before sleep, and wondered something strange, almost impossible? Maybe it slips into your mind like a soft shadow. If there really isn't a permanent self, then who is watching everything? Who's noticing the world? It's a little question, almost shy, but somehow it touches the heart of everything we think we know. Maybe it's okay if you don't have an answer right away. In fact, it's kind of the point to sit with it. I want to take you on a little journey tonight, just you and me, and whisper about this curious, gentle paradox. And, hey, if you enjoy this kind of quiet thinking, consider subscribing. It's a small way to come back for more moments like this, more gentle explorations. So here's the thing. We usually feel like there's an I, right? That little inner voice that seems to narrate your life, the one that remembers things, worries about things, plans and dreams. It feels like a steady, reliable presence. And naturally, when we notice something, a sunset, a song, a thought, we assume there's a me behind it, watching, someone observing, someone keeping track. But here's the gentle twist. Buddhism, in its quiet way, suggests there isn't really a permanent me at all. That sense of self you cling to so naturally, it may just be a story, a momentary pattern that arises and falls away. There's no unchanging captain steering the ship. And maybe that's a little uncomfortable, isn't it? Our minds like to believe in an I, because it makes life feel safe, like we have a handle on things. Yet, if there is no fixed self, the question comes softly, like a feather on your shoulder. Then who is watching the universe? Who's experiencing? Who's aware of this life? Even thinking about it can make your mind pause. You may even feel a tiny bit dizzy, because it goes against everything our instincts tell us. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not about solving the question with logic. Not yet. Maybe it's just about noticing the feeling of it, letting it linger a little. I like to imagine it like this. Our ordinary mind tends to carve the world into pieces. Me, you, that tree, that sound, that thought. And somewhere inside, we place a watcher, a little me, that sees it all. It feels natural. It's like assuming a car must have a driver, even when it's on cruise control. And maybe here's a little secret. Even the Buddha didn't just hand out answers. When people asked, does the self exist? He sometimes stayed quiet. He didn't avoid them. Maybe he just wanted them to sit with the question, to feel it, to notice the edges of their thinking. Sometimes silence is the answer. Sometimes letting a question float in the mind gently, like a leaf on water, is exactly what opens a heart. I've noticed when I sit quietly, maybe staring out a window or walking slowly, that this paradox has a kind of beauty. The sense of a permanent I is comforting, sure, but it's also a little heavy, isn't it? It carries worry, expectations, judgments. And maybe just noticing that the I isn't as solid as we think, it brings a subtle relief, a quiet lightness. Even science seems to hint at this in its own soft way. Quantum experiments show that the act of noticing can change what's noticed. And maybe that's telling us something about observation itself, that it's not separate from what is observed. The watcher and the seen, maybe they're not two things after all. So, as we start this little exploration together, I invite you to just breathe with it. No pressure. No need to have it figured out. It's okay if it feels strange or impossible. And if you like quietly pondering these mysteries with me, consider subscribing. We can sit with these thoughts together, slowly, softly. Tonight, or maybe tomorrow morning, notice your thoughts. Notice that inner voice. Notice the world around you. And just maybe Let the question settle in without trying to chase it. Let it be a soft companion. Who knows? Something might begin to shift in the spaces between your thoughts. And that's where the journey really starts. Maybe you've noticed it too, that quiet little sense of me inside you, that voice that feels like it's been there forever, quietly narrating your life, reminding you of who you are, what you like, what you should do next. It's comforting, isn't it? That I feels like a center, like the anchor of all your experience. And yet, if we pause for a moment, just pause, we might notice something strange. That I isn't as solid as it feels. It isn't a single unchanging thing. Think about it like this. Our sense of self is kind of like a story we tell ourselves. You know how sometimes you remember a memory and it feels like that's me. But if you really look, you realize it's just a collection of moments, feelings, and images stitched together by your mind. That's what Buddhism points to. There isn't a permanent me behind those moments, just the moments themselves, flowing and changing. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's more freeing than we realize. In everyday life, this becomes more obvious than we might think. Have you ever been completely absorbed in something? Painting, playing music, walking in the park, even washing dishes, and suddenly that I seems to disappear? You're just doing. You're just being. There's no narrator, no me telling the story. The world is happening, and somehow you're part of it, but not separate. Those are the little hints that the self we cling to is more like a habit, a lens, than a fixed reality. Even science quietly nods at this. Modern neuroscience tells us that the sense of I isn't located in one place in the brain. It's not a little captain at the helm. It's more like a symphony of processes, constantly interacting, memory, perception, emotion, attention. And together, these processes create the feeling of me. But if the music stopped for a moment, or if the instruments played differently, that sense of self would shift or fade. Isn't that kind of remarkable? Let me share a small story. I once sat by a lake in the early morning. The water was still, mist rising softly, birds calling somewhere in the distance. I was just watching, no me trying to control the experience. And then it hit me. The ripples on the water, the light on the mist, even my thoughts, they were all happening. There was no separate watcher behind it all. The sense of a solid self just dissolved like fog in the sun. It was fleeting, yes, but beautiful. A little freedom, like a gentle sigh inside. Buddhism helps us understand this through something called the 5 aggregates. Don't worry about the complicated names. Just think of them as the parts that make up what we call self. Our body, our feelings, our thoughts, our perceptions, our awareness. They're like ingredients in a recipe. You can mix them, notice them, experience them, but the self isn't hiding somewhere as a separate ingredient. It's just the recipe itself. The process of cooking, changing moment to moment. Maybe you're thinking, okay, that's interesting, but what does it matter to me? Here's what I feel is important. Clinging to the idea of a solid self can feel heavy, like carrying a backpack full of rocks everywhere. Anxiety, worry, the need to protect your me, all of that can weigh us down. And noticing that the self isn't fixed, it's okay to let some of that weight go. Maybe we can set down the backpack, if only for a little while, and feel what it's like to breathe more freely. And here's the gentle invitation. Don't try to force it. Don't look for proof or a big realization. Just notice. When you feel that little I narrating your life, pause and maybe ask softly, is this really permanent? Or is it just a pattern? And then watch how the mind responds. Sometimes it resists. Sometimes it softens. Either way, you're noticing, And that noticing is the first step. It's okay if it feels a little strange, maybe even uncomfortable. That's normal. The mind is used to assuming there's a solid me behind all experiences. And yet, in those quiet moments, sitting, breathing, walking, watching, we start to glimpse something else. Something light, something soft, something like freedom. So maybe, just maybe, the self is not a fixed point, but a flowing river. And when we stop clutching so tightly, we can start to float a little with the current. It's gentle, subtle, almost invisible, but it changes everything. And as we explore this together, remember, it's okay to sit with a question. It's okay to feel uncertain. It's okay to be human. If you're enjoying this quiet little reflection and want to come back to these whispers, consider subscribing. It's like leaving a little light on, so you can return when you need a pause, a breath, a moment to wonder. Maybe you've noticed it before, those moments when you're just noticing. A bird flits across the sky, a song drifts from a neighbor's window, the sunlight shifts across a wall. It feels like someone is seeing it, right? But what if there isn't really a someone behind the seeing? Maybe it's okay to sit with that thought for a little while. Maybe that's where the mystery lives. In Buddhist teachings, observation isn't really about a separate person doing the looking. It's more like a dance, a flow. Your eyes meet shapes, your ears meet sounds, your mind meets thoughts. And in that meeting, awareness arises. There isn't a watcher standing apart. The seeing, the hearing, the sensing, that's the experience itself. Maybe it's a little like when you're listening to music so deeply that you forget you're listening. The sound is happening, and somehow you are part of it, but you aren't separate from it either. I like to think about it with something simple. Imagine touching a cool stream with your hand. You feel the water flowing, the smoothness, the chill, but there's no need for a you to be controlling it. The sensation just happens. Your mind may say, I'm feeling the water, but the truth is more subtle. The experience itself is already complete. There's nothing missing, nothing watching it from somewhere else. It's just flowing. In Buddhism, they describe this with something called the six sense bases: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Each of these meets its corresponding object, a form, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a thought, and then awareness arises. The seeing of a tree, the hearing of wind in the leaves, the feeling of your breath, all of it happens because conditions come together. And when conditions change, the experience changes too. It's natural. It's flowing. It doesn't need a separate watcher to make it happen. I remember once sitting in a quiet park, watching the sunlight shift through the branches. I was noticing, but also not really noticing. My mind tried to label it. I see the light, I hear the leaves, and then slowly I realized there wasn't an I doing the seeing. There was just seeing. The light, the branches, the feeling of sitting there. It all arose together like a single breathing moment. And somehow it felt lighter, softer. My thoughts calmed down, and there was just this flowing awareness. Even our memories and perceptions participate in this flow. When you remember something, your mind colors it, interprets it, maybe adds a little story. But again, it's all happening in the moment, not because of me is orchestrating it from somewhere hidden. Thoughts and perceptions are like clouds moving across the sky. They appear, they change, they fade. And the sky itself, the awareness, is always there, simply allowing them to move. Sometimes I like to imagine that our mind is like a theater. Thoughts, sensations, images appear on the stage, and there isn't a director in the back room controlling them. The play unfolds naturally. And if we sit quietly enough, we can notice the stage itself. Vast, open, ungraspable. That a little like noticing the selfless nature of observation. Maybe this feels a little strange at first. It's okay if it does. Our minds are used to thinking that something has to be doing the watching. And yet, in those quiet moments, sitting, walking, even just breathing, we can start to notice that awareness is already there. The river flows, the wind blows, the sounds arrive, and we are already part of it. We are not separate, and yet everything is happening just as it should. If you're listening quietly, maybe you can try for a moment. Notice a sound near you, a feeling in your body, a thought passing by. Don't try to catch it or name it. Just notice it. And gently remind yourself, there's no one behind it, nothing controlling it, nothing missing. It just is. And that just is can be surprisingly comforting, like a soft hand on your shoulder, saying, it's okay. You don't have to hold on to everything. And maybe, if you like exploring these quiet, strange mysteries together, subscribing could be a little invitation to come back, a place to return, to breathe, to wonder without pressure. Maybe by now, you've been carrying that little question with you for a while. If there's no self, then who is watching the universe? It's soft, persistent, like a whisper in the back of your mind. And maybe the first thing to notice is that the question itself is kind of sneaky. It assumes there must be a watcher, that for every experience, there has to be a me standing behind it, taking it in. But what if that assumption isn't true? What if watching just happens without anyone watching? I like to think of it like waves on the ocean. Each wave rises, moves, and falls. The ocean doesn't need a captain. There's no one steering each crest. The wave just is, watching, feeling, sensing. Maybe it's like that. Observation unfolds naturally, without a self behind it. The seeing of a tree, the feeling of a breeze, the thought that drifts across your mind, all of it arises because conditions come together, not because someone you is pulling the strings. There's a story I keep coming back to. The Buddha once spoke to a monk named 𝐴𝐻𝐸 and gave him a simple, yet incredibly deep instruction. In the seen, there's only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the sensed, only the sensed. In the cognized, only the cognized. At first, it may feel a little abstract, but if you slow down and let it settle, it begins to feel like a soft revelation. When we see, we're just seeing. When we hear, we're just hearing. There's no hidden seer, no secret thinker lurking behind the experience. The experience is whole in itself. I remember a moment, quietly sitting in a cafe, watching people pass by, hearing the clink of cups, feeling the warmth of a mug in my hands. For a moment, the thought, I am watching, faded. There was just watching. The people, the sounds, the touch of my fingers on the cup, all of it was alive and unfolding. And I realized softly that I wasn't missing anything. The watching itself was complete. It's strange at first. Our minds insist on a separate observer, because that's how we've learned to understand the world. But when we let go of that insistence, a kind of freedom appears. No one is holding the universe on their shoulders. No one is struggling to control or make sense of it. Watching simply happens. Life simply happens. And maybe, for a brief moment, we can breathe a little easier. Even in everyday moments, we can notice glimpses of this selfless awareness. Think about times when you're completely absorbed in something, music, sports, cooking, or even just walking through a forest. In those moments, the sense of a separate self tends to fade. There's just flow, just presence, just life moving. The mind isn't narrating. The I isn't judging, correcting, or managing. There's just a pure, effortless unfolding of experience. And maybe that's the gift of this realization. The question, who is watching the universe, loses its pressure. It doesn't need an answer in the way we thought. There's nothing missing. There's nothing hidden. The seeing, the feeling, the thinking, it's all already complete. And in that completeness, a soft liberation appears. So tonight, maybe try it softly. Notice your surroundings. Notice a sound, a feeling, a thought. And quietly remind yourself, there's no separate me doing the noticing. There's just noticing itself. It's okay if it feels strange. It's okay if it's subtle. Sometimes, the smallest realizations carry the deepest relief. And as we wander together through these reflections, maybe consider subscribing, not to be taught or told what to think, but to have a gentle space to return to, a place to breathe, to pause, to notice quietly, softly, without pressure. Maybe by now, the thought is settling quietly in your mind. No one is really watching. There's just watching itself. And with that thought, something light begins to stir, almost like the first gentle breeze of morning. There's a kind of relief here, subtle, soft, but profound. Think about how heavy life can feel when we're always carrying around a sense of me, the I that needs to control, judge, protect, or prove itself. The constant worry that we're not enough, or that we have to make sense of everything. That weight is exhausting. And sometimes it sits there quietly, pressing down on your chest, almost invisible until you notice it. And now imagine setting that weight down, even just for a moment, letting the thought of, I must watch, I must control, I must be someone drift away. What remains is lighter, freer, more spacious. The world doesn't need your approval or your attention to exist. The breeze blows, the sunlight shifts, the river flows, and you're part of it, not apart from it, not responsible for it, not carrying it. Just breathing, just noticing, just being. I remember a quiet afternoon sitting under a tree, leaves whisper in the wind. A bird sang softly somewhere above. For a long while, I tried to control my thoughts, try to keep track of me in the moment, and then slowly that effort faded. There was just the moment itself, just the leaves moving, just the wind, just the feeling of sitting there. And in that space, I felt a strange kind of freedom, a gentle lightness, as if I had been carrying a hidden backpack all along and had finally set it down. And it's not just poetic. Science seems to notice this too. People who practice mindfulness or meditation, gently letting go of self-centered thinking, often experience less anxiety, less stress, and a softer, kinder heart. Their minds aren't trying to control everything, and suddenly, life doesn't feel like such a tightrope walk. There's room to breathe. There's room to feel. There's room to be. Even our relationships can change when we carry less of that heavy self. When we're not always protecting the little I, there's space for more compassion, more understanding, more connection. Maybe we notice a friend smile without thinking, do they like me? Maybe we hear a child laugh without wondering if we need to fix something. The world feels a little bigger, a little more open, a little more alive. And here's a gentle invitation in all of this. It's okay if this takes time, if it feels subtle, if it drifts in and out of awareness. These shifts are quiet, almost imperceptible at first. But over time, they begin to change the way we carry ourselves, the way we feel, the way we notice life. I like to imagine it like a flower opening slowly in the morning sun. Each petal unfurls softly, naturally, without force. That's what understanding no-self can feel like, a gradual opening, a subtle liberation, a soft lightness that grows inside. So maybe tonight or tomorrow, when you have a quiet moment, try it. Notice your breath. Notice a sound, a touch, a thought, and softly remind yourself there's no one behind this. There's just this. And maybe, just for a little while, feel the weight of I dissolve. Feel the quiet space that emerges. Feel the gentle freedom of simply being. And if this whispering reflection feels comforting, if you like wandering with these questions together, consider subscribing. Not for lessons, not for rules, but for a soft place to return, a gentle pause in a noisy world, a quiet moment just to breathe and notice. Maybe now, the ideas start to settle in softly. There's no separate I doing the watching, no one holding the universe together. It's a subtle thought, almost like a quiet song in the background of your mind. And the beautiful part is that this isn't just abstract. It can touch the way you live moment by moment. Think about the little things we do every day. When you spill a cup of coffee or forget a friend's birthday, the I inside can get heavy, can beat itself up, can replay the moment over and over. But maybe, just for a moment, you can notice the spill, notice the feeling of embarrassment, and softly remind yourself, this isn't permanent. This isn't a reflection of a fixed self. It's just a moment unfolding. And somehow it becomes lighter. You don't have to carry guilt like a heavy stone. You can let it pass, like leaves drifting on a river. Or think about those moments when you're in conversation with someone, maybe a little tense or anxious. Usually, the mind is running a silent commentary. What do they think of me? Am I doing this right? But if you pause, even for a breath, and notice that awareness itself is already present, suddenly the conversation isn't so heavy. You can listen more freely. You can respond without that tight grip of self controlling every word. The exchange becomes gentler, softer, more alive. I remember a quiet evening sitting at my kitchen table, watching my daughter draw. She was so absorbed, so completely lost in the colors and lines, that she wasn't thinking about me watching, wasn't judging herself, wasn't concerned with being good enough. She was just being, just creating, just flowing. And for a moment, I realized that's what it can feel like when the sense is separate. I relaxes, pure presence, pure freedom. And somehow it's contagious. Her flow invited me to settle into mine. Even mundane moments can be little windows to this insight. Washing dishes, folding clothes, walking to the mailbox. When we let go of the need for me to control or watch, there's a soft beauty in simply noticing. The warmth of water, the texture of a towel, the feel of the breeze. Life doesn't demand our constant supervision. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's more than okay. Maybe it's a quiet gift. And here's something I like to remind myself. Noticing this doesn't mean life becomes perfect. Problems, sadness, confusion, and mistakes will still arise. But without the constant pressure of a separate I trying to manage or fix everything, life feels less heavy. We can navigate challenges with a little more softness, a little more grace. It's like walking through a forest. You don't have to bend every branch out of the way. You just move, you notice, you breathe, and the path reveals itself step by step. Sometimes, I imagine life as a river. Thoughts, feelings, events, they all flow like water. The sense of me is like try and hold a single drop in your hand. But if you let go, if you just float with the current for a while, something shifts. There's less struggle. There's more ease. There's a quiet, subtle joy in simply being present, being alive, without a separate watcher steering every moment. And maybe that's the gentle practice we can bring into our days. Not forcing understanding, not needing proof, not striving for perfection, just noticing. Noticing a sound, a touch, a thought, a movement, letting awareness itself carry the moment. And slowly, quietly, we start to live differently, lighter, softer, freer. And if these gentle reflections feel like a quiet companion in your day, consider subscribing, not to be told what to think, but to have a soft place to return, a moment to pause, a little whisper to remind you it's okay to just be. Maybe by now, you've begun to notice how soft and subtle this understanding of no self can feel. It's not dramatic, not flashy, not a sudden explosion of insight. It's more like the slow opening of a flower at dawn, delicate, quiet, almost imperceptible. And sometimes the most profound changes are exactly like that, almost invisible, yet entirely transformative. Have you ever been so absorbed in something that time seems to disappear? Maybe you were drawing, cooking, playing a musical instrument, or even simply walking through a quiet street. In those moments, that constant internal chatter, the little voice saying, I am watching, I am controlling, I must manage, it fades. There's just flow. There's just presence. The world is moving, and somehow you're moving with it, part of it, but not separate. That's what this deeper awareness feels like. It's a gentle immersion in life itself. I remember a day hiking through a quiet forest, the trail wound between trees, sunlight spilling in soft patterns on the ground. For a long stretch, I wasn't thinking about who I was, what I should do next, or how I looked. I was just walking, noticing the leaves, listening to the birds, feeling the cool breeze. The self, that little anchor I normally carry everywhere, had quietly dissolved, and in its place there was something lighter, something freer. Every step felt effortless, every breath full, every sound alive. I realized then, when the sense of separate I relaxes, life feels more immediate, more vivid, more whole. Even in ordinary moments, this flow can appear. Washing dishes, brushing your teeth, listen to someone speak. If we pause and let the moment unfold without insisting that I must be present behind it, life feels less rigid, less heavy. Maybe it's just a cup of coffee, a warm bath, a short walk. But in that small unfolding, there's a subtle taste of freedom, a glimpse of something vast and ungraspable, yet entirely here. And it's not about losing yourself, as some people worry. It's not nihilism, not emptiness in a depressing sense. It's more like opening a window in a stuffy room. The air comes in. The space expands. You can breathe. The world isn't less real. It feels more real, more immediate, more alive. The observer isn't missing, because the act of observation itself is already complete. The river flows, the leaves rustle, the sun rises, and the awareness that notices is already there, unencumbered, selfless, free. Maybe it helps to imagine life as a dance. You don't have to lead every step. You don't have to control the music. You just move with it, in tune, letting the rhythm guide you. And sometimes the dance is effortless, fluid, joyous, not because of you controlling it, but because the movement itself carries you. That's what deeper awareness feels like, a natural flow, a soft anticipation in life, without gripping, without insisting, without needing to be separate. There's also a quiet courage in this, letting go of the need for a separate I, to always manage, to always protect, to always observe. It can feel vulnerable at first. That's okay. It's okay to feel uncertain, to feel unsure. And yet, in that vulnerability, there's liberation. There's lightness. There's space to experience life more fully, more richly, more simply. So maybe tonight or tomorrow, you can try a small practice. Notice a sound, a sensation, a thought. Don't analyze it. Don't try to own it. Just let it rise and pass. And in that noticing, you may feel gently, softly, a little less tied to the sense of a separate self. Just a little more open to life. Just a little more at ease with simply being. And if these reflections feel like a soft companion, a quiet place to pause, consider subscribing. It's like leaving a little light on, so you can return, breathe, and notice life with gentle curiosity whenever you need it. Maybe you've started noticing how much effort it takes to hold on to the sense of I, to keep controlling, managing, judging every little thing. It's exhausting, isn't it? That constant inner voice, quietly steering, correcting, measuring, worrying. It can weigh you down without you even realizing it. And yet, what if it's okay to let go just a little, just for a moment? I remember sitting by a small lake one morning, watching the water ripple softly in the breeze. Normally, my mind would try to follow each ripple, measure its movement, compare it to the day before, plan what I should do next. But this time, I tried something different. I simply watched the water. I didn't need to control it, to label it, to make sense of it. I just noticed, and slowly something shifted. My chest felt lighter. My shoulders relaxed. The world seemed softer. The I that usually pulls at everything was quiet, almost invisible, and life felt easier to breathe. That's the subtle power of letting go of control. It's not about giving up or being careless. It's about noticing that the universe, and even our own minds, unfolds naturally. The thinking, the feeling, the observing, it all flows together without needing a separate me orchestrating it. And when we stop gripping so tightly, even just a little, there's space. Space for calm. Space for clarity. Space for joy. Even in everyday moments, this letting go makes a difference. Maybe you're stuck in traffic or facing a pile of emails or worrying about something you can't change. Usually, the mind reacts, I must fix this. I must control it. I can't relax. But if you pause, take a breath, and notice that these experiences are already unfolding without your constant supervision, there's a soft release. The tension eases. The heart slows. The mind breathes. And suddenly, even the chaos doesn't feel quite so heavy. I like to think of it like holding a cup of water. If you grip it too tightly, the water spills, your hands ache, you feel the strain. But if you hold it gently, attentively, without forcing it, the water stays contained and your hands relax. That's the subtle art of living without an overbearing sense of, I, trying to steer every moment. Sometimes, this can also transform how we relate to others. When we stop insisting that I must always be right, always be in control, we become softer, more patient, more present. Conversations become less tense. Small irritations fade. And connections feel more genuine because we're not constantly measuring ourselves against the world. We're simply participating in it. And maybe the most beautiful part is that you don't have to perfect this letting go. It's okay if it drifts in and out, if some moments feel effortless and others tense. The practice isn't about mastery. It's about gentle noticing, soft awareness, and a willingness to let the river flow without gripping every drop. So tonight, or whenever you have a quiet moment, try it softly. Notice a sound, a touch, a thought, or feeling. Don't intervene. Don't try to hold it or shape it. Just notice it arising and passing, and quietly remind yourself, I don't have to control this. It's okay. It's all unfolding as it should. And maybe, just for a little while, feel the ease that comes with simply letting life be. And if these whispers of reflection bring a little lightness to your day, consider subscribing, not for rules or lessons, but as a soft place of return to breathe, to notice, and to explore these quiet moments together. Maybe by now, you're noticing a subtle shift, a quiet space opening with a constant grip of, I used to be, and in that space, something gentle and unexpected begins to appear. Joy. Not the loud, flashy kind, but a soft, steady warmth, like sunlight filtering through leaves on a quiet morning. Think about the moments when you're laughing with someone, completely absorbed in exchange, forgetting yourself for a while. The I that usually hovers behind your thoughts, worried about how you appear, how you sound, what's next, quietly fades. And suddenly, there's pure presence, pure delight in the moment itself. That's the subtle joy of selfless awareness. The laughter isn't yours alone. The smile isn't yours alone. It's just happening, shared and flowing, without ownership. I remember walking through a park and noticing a small child chasing a butterfly. She was laughing, clapping her hands, completely immersed in the experience. And I found myself smiling, not as me watching her, but as part of the moment. The joy wasn't confined to a single self. It was a shared, flowing experience, effortless, alive, present. And it struck me when the sense of separate self softens, connection becomes natural. Life isn't a series of isolated islands. We're waves in the same ocean, each one arising and passing, touching, blending, flowing together. Even in the little things, this connection emerges. Maybe it's noticing the way the wind rustles through the trees, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the hum of conversation in a cafe. Life feels a little fuller, richer, more alive, not because you're grasping it, not because you're trying to own it, but because awareness itself is open, receptive, and free. And that openness invites joy, curiosity, and compassion naturally. And there's a quiet kindness in this too. When the sense of a separate self softens, it becomes easier to see others without judgment, without constant comparison, without the weight of self-centered thinking. A friend's smile, a colleague's struggle, a stranger's kindness, all becomes vivid, real, and moving. And somehow, without trying, your heart expands a little. It's not effortful. It's just being present, just being aware, just noticing the flow of life. I like to think of it like sunlight on a morning lake. Each ripple reflects a little bit of light, sparkling without any effort, without any need to control or claim it. And as you watch, you realize the sunlight, the water, the reflection, and you're noticing are all part of the same moment, a single flowing experience. That's what joy feels like when we embrace this selfless awareness. It's shared, ungraspable, beautiful. So maybe tonight, or in your next quiet moment, you can try it. Notice a small joy, a sound, a smell, a sight, a smile, and softly remind yourself, this moment doesn't belong to anyone. It's just happening. And that's enough. And maybe, just for a little while, you can feel the gentle warmth of life itself, flowing through you, around you, and with everyone else. And if this soft reflection brings even a little lightness, consider subscribing, not for lessons or instructions, but for a quiet place to return, to breathe, to notice, and to feel life gently unfolding together. Maybe by now, these reflections have been gently settling in. The idea that there is no separate I, no one holding the universe together, no hidden observer behind the scenes. It can feel strange at first, like stepping into a quiet, misty morning that you've never noticed before. And yet, there's a quiet gift here, freedom. A subtle, gentle opening. Life doesn't change in dramatic ways overnight. The sun still rises, people still laugh, coffee still spills. But something shifts inside, the way you move, the way you notice, the way you breathe. Moments that once felt heavy now carry a soft lightness. Moments that once felt routine now seem a little more vivid, a little more alive. And slowly, imperceptibly, the sense of pressure of constant me trying to watch, control, and understand everything eases. I remember sitting by the window one evening, watching the last light fade into the horizon. Normally, my mind would be cataloging thoughts, planning tomorrow, replaying the day. But that evening, I simply watched the sky. No, I was keeping score. No, I was trying to control the moment. There was just watching itself. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a soft, steady peace. Life, in its fullness and mystery, was already complete. Integrating this understanding into everyday life doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as noticing a sound, a breath, a sensation, letting a smile arise without claiming it, watching a thought come and go without chasing or judging it. Even small moments, repeated gently, begin to change the way you experience everything. The sense of I loosens its grip, and life feels lighter, more fluid, more connected. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that this understanding is not a goal, not something to achieve or prove. It's a soft practice, a quiet noticing, a gentle opening. You don't have to be perfect at it. It's okay if it drifts in and out, if some moments feel effortless and others tense. Each moment is an opportunity to notice, to breathe, to let life unfold without gripping, without needing to control. And in that unfolding, there is freedom, there is joy, there is peace. I like to imagine it like walking through a field at dawn. The mist is soft, the grass bends gently beneath your feet. The air is fresh and quiet. You don't have to steer the wind. You don't have to lift the sun. You don't have to measure the distance. You simply walk. You simply notice. And in that gentle presence, the world reveals itself, rich, alive, beautiful. That's what living with this understanding of no self can feel like: a gentle presence, a soft immersion, a quiet joy in simply being. And so, maybe as you go about your day, you can carry this little whisper with you. I don't need to control it. I don't need to own it. There's just life unfolding here and now. And sometimes in the softest moments, just noticing that is enough. Enough to feel lighter. Enough to feel connected. Enough to feel alive. If these reflections have brought even a little softness to your day, a little pause in the rush of life, consider subscribing, not to follow rules, not to be told what to think, but for a gentle space to return to, a quiet place to breathe, notice, and remember that life is already flowing, already whole, already beautiful. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most liberating feeling of all.